Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, 6 o'clock on a Sunday. What is Coach Yolanda doing? Oh my goodness gracious. Whether you are watching live or whether you are watching the replay, I'm grateful for your support, your patience as we jump from thing to thing, trying to get it together. I am Coach Yolanda, owner of Evolving Spirit Wellness, international spiritual life coach, birth doula, meditation master, Reiki master teacher, all of the things that I consider myself to be. The most prevalent in this moment is grateful. I am grateful for your presence, your support. I am coming back from illness. I'm coming back from a lot of things, but specifically last week, we had to pause because I was not well. I was not well. And I am grateful to be feeling so much better. There are still some residual issues to be addressed, but Mama is here, and for that, I am grateful. Thank you to those of you who reached out via text, social media, and those of you who popped up. Thank you for my sister friends that popped up on me. Um, and without me even saying that something was going on, at least one or two of them was like, something's not right. What's going on with you over there? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for about the past 3 to 4 weeks, something was not right. I was not just feeling unwell physically, but there was a lot going on personally, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And I know that I'm not alone in that because all you got to do is look out in the world and see what's going on. And it will also give you a picture of what may be going on for you in your own personal universe. As we look around the world and see disruptions and chaos on some level, it may be going on in your own personal life. So I hope that those of you who have also been experiencing some chaos in your life, some uneasiness, I hope you recognize that you're not alone in that. That there's not something wrong with you and everyone else seems to be doing well. I know it can feel like that sometimes, that everyone else seems to have it so together. Everyone else seems to be doing so well. Everyone else is, blah, 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 blah. If we start to compare and compete, we do ourselves a disservice by that animal called separation of thought, separation of feeling, separation of actions will do a number on you and having you feeling isolated and that you're alone. And I know I am not alone in that. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to come to y'all at 6 o'clock on a Sunday because there's so much going on in the world where we could be doing so many other things, but it was important that we get back on track. Um, when I worked in a school district, I used to always famously say, "One monkey don't stop no show." If somebody called out or if somebody got fired, because that was always happening, or somebody resigned, I'd be like, "One monkey don't stop no show. We've got to keep the ball rolling." And so that is how I felt. Greetings to you, Laura. Hello, my love. That is how I felt this morning. I was uncertain of coming on at 1:30 because there were other things that I had to do. But I was like, today, this has got to be done. This has got to be expressed because there was a moment this morning, where something shifted for me. And for those of you who feel a connection with your mind, your body, and your spirit, and you know how messages, how communications, how things come. Some people call it downloads, some people call it apparitions, whatever you call it for yourself, when you have an aha moment where things just seem to click and shift. That happened for me this morning where for the past 3 to 4 weeks, battling illness, battling some mental and emotional stuff, I'm questioning myself like, am I in a depression? Because depression doesn't always look classically, like it classically looks. It's not always I can't get out of bed and I don't have any motivation to do anything. Depression and or anxiety can take different forms in your life. And so I'm questioning myself because I just did not feel like myself. And I was having experiences with other people that were confusing to me. Why are we not in harmony when there's nothing that would have caused disharmony? Why am I not getting along? Why am I not understanding other people? Why, just a feeling of confusion, not understanding what is good. Nothing was making sense. And certainly here in the United States, a lot of things were going on. We were like, does not make any sense. This is unheard of. This has never happened before. It's an election year. It's an Olympic year. There are so many things going on where we are prone to seeing things going in a certain way, that when they don't happen that way or something unprecedented happens, we're thrown for a loop. And you can be feeling like that personally. Like I'm just living my life, minding my business, and boom, what is all of these things that are unfolding? And, for me, it was physical things, mental things, emotional things. Um, yeah, on in all of my relationships, professional and personal. And our topic today is resources. And this morning, when I had that epiphany or aha moment, it really felt like things now make sense. I have a better understanding of what is occurring with me. I may not have given full attention to my mind body connection. And although that is not the title for today's meditation, it is resources. You know what I am? I'm going to edit that and put in mind body connection. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit because it may resonate with you. You may also feel like your mind and your body are having two different conversations. Happy Sunday, my love. Happy Sunday. Yes, we have got, and we're going to talk about that too, taking precautions, which is a part of identifying your resources. And so often, because we are human, although the human part of us is temporary, the spiritual side of us is eternal. Because we are human, because we're having this human experience, when we think about resources, we're prone to think of external things, um, things that we may not necessarily have created ourselves, but that we can tap into. If there's a course, if there's a person, if there's something that can support you and you see it as a resource, uh, we often think of them in external scenarios. Like money is a resource, access to information is a resource, people can be resources, mentors can be resources, coaches can be resources, books, knowledge, which, all of those things can be identified as a resource. And oftentimes we ignore the most potent resource that we have in our arsenal, which is our mind. It is the most natural and dynamic resource that we all have. Our mind made up of our mental energy and our emotional energy. And we oftentimes, don't always go there first. It's I have a challenge, there's something I want to do. Let me go Google, or let me see how I can obtain more information, more knowledge, more experience from something external. When we come from a place of lack where we think there is something that we don't have, one of the very first things that we do is look externally. And so, as we are talking about restoring, reclaiming, reconnecting our internal power, I want us all to start to reframe, rethink, and refocus that our power runs on internal resources. Wisdom is great, knowledge is great, education is great, financial resources, support, all of those things are necessary. But those internal resources that we all have are the most valuable resource that that we can contain, and one that we can control, because we can't always control the external resources. Lord, I wish that there were external resources that we could automatically tap into whenever necessary, whenever needed. Some of us have the privilege of that experience. I love listening to podcasts, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday about some young men who, I guess, in the late 90s, they were in college, but they all came from affluent backgrounds. But for whatever reason, that wasn't enough for them. Here they are with privilege, with resources, their families were wealthy, and that was not enough for them. So they got into the illegal drug market. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, what would make someone who has the resources that anytime something happens, they just pick up the phone, mommy, daddy, I need, mommy, daddy, I need. And sometimes they didn't even have to pick up the phone. It was just given. What would make them want to enter into a dangerous, illicit trade, so to speak, and jeopardize everything? And one of the young men actually lost his life. Another young man is still in prison. What would compel someone to do that? And I actually was driving when I was listening to it. So I'm thinking of today, talking about resources, talking about our mind. And that's what struck me about this story, is that even with all of the external resources, if your mind is not centered in a powerful place, you are also prone to believe there is something that you are lacking. So even when individuals have privilege, wealth, education, all of the things that we think are necessary for success and for power, even when all of those things are at the disposal, if your mental and emotional energy is not in balance, and you don't recognize that as your greatest resource, you can also be prone to engaging in behavior that's to your detriment. And so, how many of us are aware that if I don't get my mental and emotional resources in balance, I could work, and obtain all of the external resources that I desire. It could all be for nothing if I'm out of balance mentally and emotionally. And so I'm grateful for the experience of the past few weeks, because it reminded me that that mind body connection is the greatest resource that I have. And when it is out of balance, if I'm not taking care of myself, if we are not taking care of ourselves in the way that we deserve, then we also could be prone to believing that we are living in lack, that there is something missing, that again, everyone else is having a different experience than we are. And somehow we're fighting, trying to get to a measure of success, and it's not working. And so this morning, when I thought about and said to myself, your body is trying to tell you something, your mind is trying to tell you something, but you are not connecting the dots. And so this miscommunication is going on, and not just going on internally. The miscommunication is going on in your external experiences, in your interactions with other people. That's all jacked up, because it's all jacked up in here. And yes, I meditate. Yes, I journal. But again, sometimes you got to turn the volume up Just as if, you were seeking external resources and let's say $5,000 is not enough, you need to turn it up to 10,000. So goes your internal resources, where your spiritual practice may be supporting you, but you got to turn it up because there's more required, there's more necessary. And as we are seeing on a global scale, so many things shifting, so many things changing. That is also going on internally for us. And so, yes, we need to take precautions, not just because there's stuff going on externally in the world that we may or may not have control over. We've got to take precautions to make sure that the mind body connection is where we would like for it to be. Because we could have all of the riches in the world, but if your mind and your body are not harmonious, it could mean your destruction. It could mean that you're not operating from a powerful place. How many of us see individuals who seem to have a wealth of resources, and yet there's still this energy of it's not enough, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, I need to take yours, I need to secure what I have, not share it with others. We have to be mindful of that as well. I got to take a drink. And so, one of the things that as we are talking about our power, as we are moving forward, we are in August. We are in the 8th month of the year. Last week, well, 2 weeks ago, we talked about the big ask, the requests that we have of the universe. We opened up the floodgates to say all the things that I am requesting and desiring in this right now moment, I am open to receive. If you are open to receive them, I hope that you are also working on the balance of your mind and your body so that you can support the thing that you are going to receive. Can you imagine if somebody dumped a bunch of money in your driveway at your front door, and then you don't have the capacity to do with it the way what you would want to do with it? If you didn't have anywhere to put it, anybody could come and take some off the top, take some from the middle, take some from the bottom. What was I watching? Oh, I was watching this gentleman. I think he thrifted. It was a disco ball. He thrifted a disco ball. I don't know where he got it from. I think a nightclub had shut down and he got this huge disco ball. He gets it to his house. It doesn't fit through the door. He tried every door in his house and he's like, oh my God, here I am with this thing that I desire. I wanted it. I saw it. I get it home. I can't even get it in the house. He can't get it in a window. He can't get it in the door. His only option is to either cut that thing in half and take it in, but then it, disrupts the integrity of the whole thing. Think about that internally. Think about how, if you are going to open up the floodgates so the universe provides all that you request, and yet you don't have the capacity to even hold it because your mind and your body might be out of sync. Hey, Miss Donna, how are you? Despair and that mindset that says, I don't have, or there's something wrong with me. And certainly, and one of my very good friends can attest to that because I was in a wave of chaos one night and I picked up the phone, called one of my friends, and the first thing out of my mouth was, why am I not enough? What is wrong with me? Bop, 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 bop. I was in that frame of mind, that despair, that energy of something has got to be wrong with me. Something has got to be missing from me because things are not going the way that I desire them to go, or my relationships or my interactions are not unfolding the way that I desire. So, as humans, our natural reaction is to first think there's a problem. There's a problem here. There's a problem here. There's a problem here. There's a problem. There's something wrong. And that is the energy of lack when we are constantly thinking, I have to be the problem, or I see myself as a problem, or I see problems in my life. Now, let me pause and say, we are not entering the territory of toxic positivity where we see all things as good, all things as wonderful, all things as going my way. We are not doing that. What we are doing is calling out the behavior of jumping right into lack when things are not going the way that we desire, when we tell ourselves that we don't have the resources necessary to align with our dreams, our vision, the things that we desire. That is a natural tendency as part of the human experience. There's got to be something wrong here. And as I said, I was thinking, am I depressed? And that's not to say that I wasn't. That's not to say that I wasn't experiencing anxiety, because those experiences are real. And we also have to recognize when it doesn't look the way we traditionally think it's going to look. Because again, first it's the thought, right? The thought that there's got to be something wrong with me. And then there's that connection of, if there is something wrong with me, this is what it is. We love to label, we love to diagnose, we love to come up with a reason why something is the way it is, instead of asking ourselves, is this a message that I'm receiving? Is this one of the ways that my body is attempting to get my attention? Is this part of the lesson that I have to learn at this particular point in time in my life? And one of the things that I had forgotten is the wisdom and the intelligence and all of the good things that I have been fortunate enough to absorb in my life, and one of them being A Course in Miracles. Can y'all see that? This is my copy of my A Course in Miracles. And one of the lessons from A Course in Miracles that I keep highlighted, that I keep tabbed, is let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And that is lesson 90 from A Course in Miracles. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Because as humans, our natural instinct is to see everything that doesn't look like the way we want it to look as a problem. Hi, beloved. How are you? Mm. That is natural for us to go right to the despair, to go right to the despondency, as Donna said, to go right to, there's something wrong with me. If I'm not having good interactions with the people I love, the people I like, the people I work with, or heck, even strangers, there's got to be something wrong with me. Now, some of us may also feel like there's got to be something wrong with them. There's got to be something wrong with you. Um, at the child care center, I'm often looking like this. And people are like, Miss Shalonda, why you got that look on your face? I'm like, because I'm confused. I see people doing things or saying things, and I get this energy of confusion because it doesn't look the way that I think it's supposed to look. Because of that natural tendency for us to think that something is wrong or that there is a problem afoot. What would it mean if we could shift our mindset, if we could connect the dots with our minds, with our bodies, that the problem and the solution to that problem are the same thing? That's lesson 80. Yes, lesson 80. Lesson 79, that everything is a problem. Lesson 80 is that let me recognize my problem have already been solved. Now, this is a concept that may take a couple of times for you to devour before you're like, aha, before you have that aha moment. So let me put it in terms that may be easier for all of us to take in. Let's say I scratch my finger. Now, there are a couple of things that could happen if I scratch my finger. I could cry, I could scream, I could try to figure out what did I scratch my finger on. Like all of those things could happen before I get to the solution, which is stop the bleeding. I might have an immediate reaction, scratch finger, bleeding, get a band-aid, or put it underwater. Sometimes that happens when, the injury is severe, like a burn. You burn your hand on something or you burn a part of your body on something, your natural instinct may be, let me cool it off. Let me put some water on it, let me put some salve on it, let me, it may be immediate. But in between the problem and the solution, there might be some other things going on. I'm going to complain about it. I'm going to try to figure out how it happened. I'm going to cry. I'm going to show other people, all of those things might get in the middle. What would it take for our minds to shift that the minute something arises, an issue, a challenge, we immediately look at it from a solution based frame of mind? What would happen if we eliminated the complaining, the venting, the lamenting, and all of the things that typically happen in the human experience when there is a problem? How often do we also have the same experience? Bills come every month, same time. The amount might be different. We shouldn't be shocked. I don't know why we're always shocked. The electric bill, the water bill, whatever bill you may have that comes on a regular basis, it should never be a shock or a surprise, even if the amount is different. It's coming. You've entered into an agreement with someone, a contract that says on the 5th of every month, you got to pay this. This is something you have to pay. And yet, part of the human experience is to complain about it, to act shocked, to get, upset. Oh, here come the bills, even though it's a regular occurrence. It's a part of life, it's a part of what we have agreed to do. What would happen if we could shift our mind to such a powerful position where lack doesn't even enter the conversation? Where, ooh, I know that tomorrow something is going to need to be paid and I have the resources, I have the money to pay it. Matter of fact, I might even pay it early. And for those of you who have that experience where things are coming and you take care of it before it even reaches you, you know what that feels like. That is a solution based, powerful position to be in. When you know something is going to occur and you've already solved it, there's no need to complain. There's no need to vent. There's no need to act as if it's a surprise. You have that energy of comfort that I have what I need to take care of what is coming or what is presented, or not even labeling it as a problem. What if we would just call them lessons, call them contracts, call them whatever you desire, whatever feels good to you that's not going to make you immediately go into the energy of despair. Oh, the mortgage is due. Oh, my car payment is due. Even if it's something you don't want to do. What would happen if we could shift that energy to a more powerful position that says, guess what? That thing is coming and I already got it taken care of. It's already handled. Because your mind, your mental and emotional energy is in such a state of balance that you're not even prone to complaining. You're not prone to thinking the worst when something is happening. I had a conversation with Beloved. I don't know if you remember it, Beloved, about not worrying, not allowing worry to fester in my mind about particular things where he and I are concerned. It's like I won't even entertain it because I recognize the minute I entertain the thought of lack, it could wrap itself like a snake. It could coil itself around my faith system, my belief system, all of the things that I know to be true. It can happen so quickly when we allow particular things to enter into our consciousness. The thought that this is going to not work, the thought that this is going to go wrong. For those of you who are watching the Olympics and everyone is so amazed by what Simone Biles is doing right now. And I'm looking at it from the perspective of 4 years ago, she knew something was out of balance and she said, I'm going to stop and get myself reconnected. And everybody was like, oh, is she going to come back? The reason she stopped is so she could continue. It wasn't let me stop and I'm done with this with that forever. It was I understand the connection between my mind and my body, and there is a disruption. Therefore, I'm going to pause because I know that there's a disconnection. I'm going to go do what I know I need to do so that the connection is strong for me to be exactly who I know myself to be. And here she is 4 years later with her mind and her body in sync, doing what she was created to do. And I think that was one of the things that she's, and looking like she's having the time of her life doing it, not allowing worry to enter into her consciousness at all. Because the second we do that, no matter what resources, like nothing has changed about her physical ability. But she recognized that her mind and her body were not speaking to each other in the way that they needed to. She didn't, break a toe. She didn't break an arm. She didn't lose her eyesight. Like she literally was like, my mind and my body are not working together. Therefore, we got to stop, fix it, reconnect it so I can get about the business of doing what have been created to do. And so it is true for each and every single one of us who were created to do particular things. But if there is a disconnect between your mind and your body, it is going to be challenging no matter how many resources you have at your disposal. People could throw you money, and I'm speaking from experience where individuals have said, here goes some money for you to do exactly the thing that you say you want to do. But if my mind and my body are not in sync, it's not going to happen because doubt, fear, worry, and all of those other things that love to show up to disrupt my natural ability to do the thing that I was created to do were present. And it happens to all of us because it's part of the human experience. However, we will take all of that energy on and say, there is something wrong with me, instead of saying, I have all that I need within me. I have it. I have it. It hasn't gone anywhere. There is a disruption in the connection. And therefore, it is every single one of our responsibility to figure out, to be mindful of, to identify when our mind and our bodies are not working together. I am, I'm going to confess that yesterday um, was the culmination of weeks of just not being in sync, just being out of it. And so there were a couple of things that I did yesterday that I will confess were not the best for me to do. But part of the human experience, because we love an immediate, instant gratification, was I got to feel better. So let me do some things that are going to make me feel better. So I certainly was eating some things that I should not have eaten. Y'all, I don't drink coffee. I had two 16-ounce cups of espresso yesterday. What's the what? Oh my gosh. When I tell you I was like this is not something you do. But when your mind and your body are not in sync and you are not doing what is best for you mentally, emotionally, and physically, you are prone to do those things that are going to give you that instant rush. Now, my mind is like, yeah, that's not wise for you to do. But my body was like, but we love iced coffee. So that's what we should do and do it in abundance. And then eating things. and not eating on time when I know my body has to eat at particular times of the day to keep me where I need to be, and then staying up late. Like all of these things happen when there's a disconnect. And if we are not in sync with ourselves, mentally, emotionally, physically, we certainly cannot be in sync spiritually. And I really believe a lot of the physical awarenesses or illnesses that I've been having as of late are like a wake up call. Like, she not getting it. She is not getting it. There is a way in which lack can manifest physically, where we may not even be consciously aware of it. All of a sudden, we don't feel well. All of a sudden, we're tired, we're fatigued, we have insomnia. All of these things are going on that were not going on before, and we are at a loss. Why is this happening? Did something bite me? You know, did I contract something that I'm unaware of? Like, what is going on? When in many cases, it's the only way that the body can communicate to itself to say there is a disconnect here. Similar to, Simone, where she said she had the twisties. That's her explanation for there's something going on that I can't explain, that I don't even know the origin of, that I don't know what triggered it. I don't know the root of it, but I absolutely see the evidence of it. And for me, I honestly believe that a lot of the times when I am not feeling well, it is my body saying, "Hey, girl, there's something that your body needs that you are not giving it. You're not giving me something that I need in order for your mental and emotional well-being to be where you would like for it to be. There's some things you have to do." I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. It's like, we as humans will do particular things and then get confused as to why we don't feel well. It's like, well, you're not sleeping, you're not resting, you're not eating a balanced nutritional diet. You're pushing your body to the extreme, and you can't figure out why. You're a mental wreck or you're an emotional wreck. This is a machine and in many regards. And if we are not treating it in the way that it deserves to be treated, then we cannot operate in the way that we are wired to operate. And so yesterday, I confess that instead of attempting to connect the mind and the body in the healthy way, I was looking for that instant gratification. Give me some French fries. Give me all the coffee that I can stand when I don't even drink coffee. There's no reason in the world that I need to consume caffeine in the way that I did yesterday. But when things are not well, you will certainly, again, grab for those external resources. And here you're thinking, this is good. This is going to help me. This is going to put everything into place, instead of starting here internally and saying, this is the greatest resource that I have at my disposal, the connection to my mind. And A Course in Miracles, Laura, if I know you familiar, since you with the ACIM, let me put my glasses on. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. What would it take for us to have this mindset? I seem to have problems only because I am misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and time must elapse before it can be worked out. Again, part of the human experience says there has to be something wrong, and then there's a time period that we have to wallow in this problem before there is a solution. We're programmed and wired to believe that that's how things go. Oh, this problem just sprung up out of nowhere. It's going to take some time before it's resolved. Instead of the solutions based mindset that says, oh, an experience is happening, And the solution to that experience is right here in the very experience, because it's right here in the way that I'm thinking, in the way that I'm feeling, in the way that I'm behaving, and in the way that I see it. Because if I see it as a problem, as a challenge, then that is going to be the way that I approach it. But if I see it as a lesson, if I see it as a strengthening agent, if I see it as divinely ordered with the solution intact, if I see it from a solution based mindset, then maybe I don't have to wallow. Maybe I don't have to worry. Maybe I don't have to be in despair. Maybe I don't have to get despondent. Maybe I don't have to get into that downward spiral of depression and anxiety and then go call up all my friends and say, hey, let me tell you what's going on. And it's not to say that that never will happen to anyone. It will. We are having a human experience and we're going to experience it, baby. We're going to experience it all. The feelings, the thoughts, the despair, the lack. How many of us are right now in this moment ready, prepared to say, I want to see things as here for me to rely on my internal resources. The reason this experience is happening to me is because I got some internal resources to address it. And maybe I've forgotten about that. Maybe I have lost sight of just how grand and how magnificent I am. And this experience is coming to remind me of who I am. And that's how I felt this morning when all of these things started to pop up in my brain. I'm like, have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten who you are creating with? Have you forgotten that God never denies anything where you are concerned? It happens because it is part of the human experience. But as we have talked about in this space on more than one occasion, we are not just humans. We are not just of this world. We are not just connected to the things in this world. We are not just connected to the external things that we think are beyond our capacity and beyond our reach. We have within us the ability to transcend any human experience. That sounds like big talk. You're like, but what about this? What about that? I'm speaking from experience because one of the things that I also did yesterday was I went to the cemetery to visit. And visit is such an odd choice of words when we go to a cemetery because it's not really a visit. You know, I have never really looked upon the place where my child is buried as a sacred place. I often get very angry when I go. And I was angry yesterday, but then there was a shift. There was a shift because I saw a butterfly and I saw some dragonflies, and for me that meant and signaled that there's ancestral energy present. And as I was standing over Isaiah's headstone yesterday, and I'm looking at the day he was born, and I'm looking at the day that he transitioned, and I'm thinking to myself, did that really happen? That span of 16 years really happened? And I'm standing there attempting to convince myself that really happened. Yes, you had a child. His name was Isaiah. His picture is on his headstone. That's what he looks like. That's you raised this child. That happened. And you are still here. And so I'm speaking from experience that there is not a human experience that any one of us can have that we can't transcend when we remind ourselves of who we are. It's not always easy to do so. Within the past 3 weeks, two individuals that I know have also lost their children. And every time I see that experience, I'm at a loss of words that I feel will provide the comfort necessary But what I do know, and what I silently say to myself in prayer for any parent in that position, is you will transcend this human experience. From the moment it happens to the next day, to the next day, and all of the days after, you can transcend. And if each and every single one of us thinks about the worst day that we have experienced, and this is not a contest to say who has had it worst or who has had it better, but if you think about some of the challenging experiences that you have in your life that you think that you would never transcend, doesn't mean that it doesn't still impact you in some way. But if you think about it, and the fact that in this right now moment you are still present, you have transcended. It did not take you under. It may have taken you to a dark place. It may have taken you to a point where you feel like you will never be the same, and you won't be. And that's all of the thoughts that I was having yesterday. And when I left that cemetery, I went back to my hometown, and I'm pointing out things, in the neighborhood that happened when I was younger. Oh, that's where I got hit in the head with a rock. And that's where I got, scratched up my knee when I ran into the back of the car. And I'm reliving all of these moments. And I'm like, you transcended so much. I'm sitting out in front of the house that I grew up in, and I'm thinking about the good things and some of the horrible things that happened in that home. And I'm like, you made it through that. You made it through that. You made it through a lot. You made it through. Has it changed me? Absolutely. Has it changed you? Absolutely. But in this right now moment, you are present. And there is not, and I will say it again, there is not a human experience that you cannot transcend as a spiritual being, as long as we remember who we are, and that the greatest resource that we have in our hands is how we think, how we feel, and how we behave, and how those three things are connected. And what would it take for us on a daily basis? Because you may feel like, I don't know that I could do it on an hourly basis. I don't know that I could do it on a daily basis. But what would it take if we start to practice and engage in thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are more solutions based, and from a standpoint that let me recognize and identify these human experiences, these lessons that I am currently experiencing, and the ones that I've already experienced. And if I transcended those, how could I not transcend every single one that will come my way? Hey, happy first Sunday. Yes, it is. And hey, Miss Giselle, how are you? I'm so glad. Yeah, what am I doing on at 6 o'clock on a Sunday? Because I felt it necessary for not just me, but for all of us to remind ourselves of who we are and the resources that we have. You're not, you're not light work at all in any capacity. You have each and every single one of us. And sometimes it's easier to see in other people when I have conversations with my beloved, and I'm like, he will say something, and I will say, well, I don't see you that way. And sometimes he will remind me how he sees me, and I'm like, me? That's how you see me? You think that about me? And if we pay attention to the conversations and interactions that we have with people, people will let you know what they see in you. People will let you know. Last week, I was out of work for a week. And upon my return, there's things that I have to do, things that, I just wasn't there to do them. So now I'm doing them. And in the midst of all of that, One of my colleagues came in my office and said, "I didn't want anything. I just like to be in your presence because it makes me feel better. And when you were out, I didn't have that." And of course, I start with my confused look like, I said, "What'd I do?" And she was, "Nothing. It's your presence." People will let you know what they see in you that you may not even see in yourself. Pay attention to the interactions that you have with people, and not just the ones where people are selling you short, because we love to pay attention to those when people are disrespectful or they're speaking to us in ways where, like, I know you're not talking to me like that. There's no way you think it's okay to talk to me in that way. We pay attention to those. Pay attention to the interactions you have where people are telling you what they see in you, who they believe you to be, and how often are we in our own internal dialogue denying it. If this individual says, "Just being in your presence makes me feel better," who am I to say, "Girl, you have no idea the chaos and the confusion that's going on in here. You're feeling better in my presence." If they say it and you are witnessing them saying, "I literally just came in here to stand with you because it calms me down. It gives me reassurance." That has to come from somewhere. And it's okay to receive that energy if people are saying that's how they see you. Will you see yourself in that same regard? Will you hold and carry yourself in that same regard? Would you remind yourself this week, hey, I am a source of inspiration for many. I am a source of calm for many. One of the reasons why I'm on here at 6 o'clock today, it's like I understand, even if I don't always agree with it, but I understand my place in the world and how other people see me, even when I can't see myself that way. I have to recognize my internal resource. And here we are thinking, I got to get more of what's out there instead of building up what's in here. So when your mind and your body are disconnected, baby, you got to fight to reconnect those things. And if I take anything away from Simone Biles, it's when you see that something is disconnected, do what you got to do to save yourself. Who cares what the world says? I mean, the fact that she is on a global stage and said, something's not right, I could wind up hurting myself and damaging my ability to do what it is that I was born to do. So I'm going to step away, walk away. Not everybody has that level of courage. Not everyone has that level or has tapped into that level of power where you are so in tune to what your body is saying, what your mind is saying, what your spirit is saying, that when you recognize something is misfiring, that you run. Like I talked earlier, if I scratch my finger and I immediately go to get a band aid, the solution comes a lot quicker than if I scratch myself and I'm trying to figure out, well, where did I scratch myself? Why did I scratch myself? I got to call somebody and complain about this scratch that I got. The problem and the solution are one and the same. It's right there. There may be times when external resources are necessary to support you. Go to God first. Go internal first. Let me check in with my mental state. Let me check in with my emotional state. Let me check in with my physical well being. If you don't feel well physically, it can impact your mental and emotional well being. And then everything is kind of off, and the choices and the decisions that you are making are going to come from a different place, a place of desperation. And so, how do we do that, Coach Yolanda? How do we get more in tune with our bodies? By being with yourself, by creating moments and experiences where you are indicating to your body, I want us well and harmonious and talking to one another, not by drowning yourself in coffee and all of the other things that we do, thinking that that's going to regulate us. Let me go drink some wine. Let me go smoke something. Let me go take a pill. Now, if those things are necessary for you to get to a particular place, no judgment, no criticism, but recognizing that sitting with yourself, talking with yourself, writing down what's going on for you internally, being silent. One of the things that I was given in my journey of spirituality was actually a lesson from A Course in Miracle. And it was chosen for me based upon the energy that I was carrying. And I don't always remember it. Oftentimes I forget. It was given to me, and it is something that I am to go to when I am out of sorts. Let me remember I am one with God. And it seems so simple in its phrasing. Let me remember I'm one with God. That mantra, just repeating that lesson, can sometimes get me together quicker than any prayer, any meditation. Sometimes it takes more than that. But for the most part, let me remember I'm one with God. Let me be silent. Let me be still. All of them under the same lesson. In quiet, I receive God's word. And quiet doesn't just mean you're not talking. Quiet is your mind is not perseverating over a problem. You're not calling up everybody to try to tell them what the problem is. You literally are sitting with it and saying, let me remember who I am. Let me remember who created, how I was created, in the image in which I was created, with the capability to transcend any human experience. Because if we forget that, then we will succumb to worry, to fear, to despair, to lack. If we forget who we are as spiritual beings having a human experience, it's very easy. And sometimes, again, we're not consciously aware that that is happening, that we're getting deeper and deeper and deeper in the pit of despair, where it can be very, very difficult to climb out of. So, as much as possible, as often as you can, sit with yourself. Get into nature. Go, as I used to tell one of my spiritual sisters, go put your feet in some dirt. You know, she would call with, oh my God, this is going on. I'm like, take shoes off, go outside and put your feet in some dirt and take some deep breaths before we start getting on the train of, that's going 200 miles per hour. Let's pause. Let's breathe. Let's center ourselves and remind ourselves who we are and what we possess. And as I said earlier, depression and anxiety doesn't always look the same. And sometimes that absolutely will cloud everything, where you can't get to that thought, that belief, where you can't stand on that energy of faith that says, wait a minute, I have come through some things in my life. Let me remind myself that the worst day that I've had in this human experience, I somehow was able to transcend that. It may have taken me 5 years, 10 years. I might still be in it. I may not be in it in the way that I was in the beginning. I might return, but I'm still here. So many of us can probably identify individuals who have succumbed to that level of deep, deep darkness because of the human experiences that we go through. And then if you compound that with a chemical imbalance, a mental, emotional imbalance, it can be even more challenging to pull yourself out of that. And so, surrounding ourselves with the energy that is within us, connecting ourselves internally has to be, it's got to be, better be. I don't see any other way through it. I don't see any other way through it because our power runs on our internal resources. There may be other things that we need externally, but internally, baby, whew. And I'm grateful that in those moments when my soul, my spirit was unable to articulate what it needed, that the universe provides, that God always provides. As I said, people were popping up that I hadn't seen in a while, checking on me. And I always take that as I'm not able to express or articulate what it is that I need, but God knows and is already taking care of it. I may not know what words I need to hear. I may not be able to generate them for myself, but there will always be someone that comes through in some shape or form. And if we are paying attention, those angels are surrounding us. Now, my colleague who walked into my office, she didn't know that I needed to hear that. She didn't know that I needed to hear, your presence puts me at ease. She's speaking what is true for her. But am I going to dismiss the fact that we both received what it is that we needed in that moment based upon maybe our inability to express what it is that we needed? Because the heart is always speaking and the universe is always listening. And so when you think about resources, because it's also part of the human experience that we love to write things down, what is it that I have? I hope you start with what you have internally. If you have hope, if you have faith, if you have the ability to connect with your ancestors, if you have the ability to be silent, to quiet your mind, write that down. That's a great resource. Instead of focusing on the problems of the day, I don't have enough money. I can't pay this bill. I don't know where my next job is coming from. I need transportation, but whatever it is, before you start with the I don't haves, how about you start with the I am courageous. I'm courageous. I'm spirit filled. I can talk a good game. I have the ability to open myself to the possibilities that I haven't even created in my mind. I understand that there is something else going on at all times that I may not be able to see with my eyes, touch with my fingers. And it surrounds me in this moment. And it is not just given to a chosen few, it is within each and every single one of us. So even when we are having those thoughts that it's other people in lack, please recognize that you are carrying the energy of lack when you see other people and you label and criticize and judge other people. So if you look at someone like they are not smart or that, you are identifying with the energy of lack. Stop doing that. Now, that is perfectly okay to say they may not see what they are needing to see in this moment and leave it at that. But the minute we start labeling and criticizing and judging other people, I hope you recognize that that is your own internal energy connecting with the energy of that very thing. So if you say someone is not intelligent, something within you has to recognize what that looks like. You don't want to be carrying that around. It's very giving to say that people have forgotten who they are and just leave it at that. We can scroll through social media and criticize and judge individuals that we don't know, have never met, have never walked in their shoes, don't know their life experiences, what they've seen, what they've done, what they've had to run from. We don't have all of that information. Stay out of that energy and just say, you know what? Maybe they have forgotten who they are, because I know I do that myself. And I pray that they find and remember just how powerful they are and the internal resources that they have to transcend any human experience and leave it at that. And so I'm hoping that throughout this week, and perhaps this might be helpful for you if you have your notebook with you, that you write down mind body connection. And you start to write down the things that you are noticing that's going on for you mentally and emotionally, because those two things make up your mind. You have a thought, you got a feeling, it manifests in your mind. And then jot down the things that you are witnessing and that you're identifying are happening with your body. Maybe your back is hurting. Maybe you're hungrier than you normally are. Maybe you're waking up earlier. Maybe you're not sleeping. Start to write those things down. Start to become a spiritual investigator in your own life so that you become so aware of what is going on in your body physically, mentally, and emotionally that when there is a disconnect, you sense it and you're not just taking it at face value. That there is always something going on behind what we see tangibly, what we, can pinpoint. Remember I showed y'all this book, Your Body's Telling You Something. There's also another book. It's over on my shelf. The Body Keeps the Score. We've talked about that book before. Amazing book about how the um, psychological things that we go through have a physical component and connection, how all of it is connected. The trauma that you've experienced in your life, the triumphs that you've experienced in your life, the body remembers, it keeps score. Your muscles, your bones remember those things. And as I said yesterday, as I was in my hometown and I'm pinpointing things that happened in different places that I'm driving by, it's like I could actually feel my body like, yeah, I remember you ran in the back of that car. And, what transpired after that. Like I could hear conversations that I've had with people on corners. I'm like, I remember we were standing on this corner talking about that. You don't forget that. Sometimes it's worth a trip back down memory lane to remind yourself of the things that you have transcended, of the things that you have come through, come from. Sometimes revisiting the past can be very beneficial for your future, so you can remind yourself of who you are. So this week, write down, get familiar with what's going on for you, mind, body, and spirit. And so part of our meditation today is the other message that I received this morning about having sponge like faith. A sponge just sucks up everything, absorbs everything. And within that absorption, sponges don't really or don't always filter things out. So we have absorbed so many things in our lifetime. In this life experience alone, we have absorbed so much, soaked it all up. How much of what you've soaked up will give you the faith and the belief that you are also absorbing, that if you are just, you think we're just absorbing trauma? No, we are also absorbing solutions. We are absorbing wisdom. We are absorbing the information necessary to transcend some of the challenges that we see ourselves going through. Think about that. That you are not the sum of all of the traumatic and horrible things that you have gone through. You are also made up of the transcending of those things, the triumphs of those things. We do a very good job of taking inventory of what we lost, which is another thought that I had standing there in the cemetery yesterday. Like, I can tell you every emotion that I experienced on the day that my child passed away. I can also remember every emotion and experience on the day that he was born. I may not be able to identify and recall every single experience in between those 2 days. But the fact that I remember those two is enough for me to say I've absorbed so much from the experience of him. How can I just stand here and only think about what I have lost? I have to. I have to think about the things that I absorbed that have brought me to this right now moment. I have to. And it makes me, I don't know if pride or proud is the right word, but it certainly makes me feel capable of doing so much more. That if I can stand there over the bones of my child and remain hopeful, how dare I feel despair about anything else in my life? And that might not be the extreme that you go through in order to remind yourself of who you are. But I hope that if you are going to take inventory of every traumatic experience that you have had, then you better take inventory of how you came out of it. And not just the things that you have personally experienced, but the things that we have all experienced. There was a creator, content creator, talking about how each generation had, something traumatic that we all experienced. And then it seems like, the universe one upped it. We experienced, for those of us of a particular age, we've experienced the AIDS crisis. And then we experienced 9/11. We experienced a global pandemic. We experienced January 6th, like all of these things that we collectively have experienced and have impacted us in different ways. And not all of us have made it through some of those experiences. But when you think about all that you have absorbed in your lifetime, when you think about everything that we have witnessed collectively and individually, how can you discount or diminish your ability to transcend the daily challenges and experiences that are part of the human experience? Let's take some deep breaths so we can remind ourselves of who we are. Because if it were a movie that you were watching, like if you were watching the movie of your life and you were watching all of the things that the character that is you have experienced, you probably be sitting on the couch like, oh my gosh, how is she gonna make it out of this? How is she gonna smile again? How is she going to, because that is also part of the human experience, our ability to repair, to restore, to transform ourselves from the depths of trauma. Don't you forget about that, whether it has been death, divorce, financial ruin, so many different experiences that have impacted who we are. And yet, and still, here we are. Here we are. Here you are, taking deep breaths and reminding yourself this week that you're going to get to know yourself on a level that perhaps you have been afraid of or fearful of, or you didn't even know that you needed to know. All that you are required to know about you, your mind, and how it works, and how it operates, and how it gets its needs met. I had no idea how much I needed, good, bad, or indifferent, yesterday. How much I needed to stand in that cemetery, how much I needed to see my beloved brother, how much I needed to reconnect stories from my past. I had no idea that I needed that to bring me to this moment. And for all of the moments that have yet to happen, I remain hopeful. I am understanding that challenges are part of the game, part of the experience, but so are solutions, resolutions, outcomes. That's part of the experience as well. It is not all doom and gloom. And as our sister said earlier, prepare yourself for success, prepare yourself for triumph, prepare yourself in the same way that we feel like we got to protect ourselves from harmful situations and experiences. Are you preparing yourself for the greatest and grandest things that are yet to come? I get goosebumps when I think about all that I am about to experience. And just like a sponge, soaking everything up, I recognize that I am soaking up solutions, soaking up answers, soaking up new belief systems. I'm going to believe in myself in ways that perhaps I was afraid to. With every breath that I take, I cannot forget who I am, whose I am, and who created me, who sustains me, who guides me, who gives to me, who removes things that I'm not even aware of. In this right now moment, things are being done for me, for you, for all of us. If we only focus on things that we think we have lost, if we only focus on things that we think are going wrong, if we only focus on what the world would want us to focus on, the drama, the trauma, the challenges, the conflict. If we only focus on that, then that is what we will receive. More of that. How many of us are prepared to focus on, to tap into, to align with, to sit with, to stand on, to create from a place of hope, belief, trust, courage? I came here, you came here, we came here to do a thing, and that thing will be done either by us or those who come after us. I would like to be a active participant. I want my name in the goodness of those things that are going to be created based upon destiny, based upon things that have already been written and authored and orchestrated. It's going to be done. Are you going to decide and choose that it'll be done with your participation, or are you going to let yourself succumb to the fear that I'm not enough, something is wrong with me, I can't do it, I'm unclear, ba 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 ba? Or are you going to say, I got everything that I need within me, and I'm open to receiving the guidance, the wisdom, the knowledge, and everything else, so that it's all in alignment, so that I can step out with all that I have absorbed, reminding myself that I am not the sum of all of the terrible things that I've seen, that have happened. I'm great because I'm here and I can tell the tale. When I drove past the place that I literally remember getting hit in my head with a rock, I don't even to this day know who threw the rock. I might have been 12 or younger, but I know when I got hit in the head and I started to bleed, I know that I remember that there was a part of me that was so focused on who threw it that I wasn't even concerned about getting the care that I needed for this open wound that I had in my head. And as I was driving past that place yesterday, I said, thank God that I no longer will allow myself to bleed out because I'm focused on who hit me, who hurt me. Thank God that if I shall be injured, hurt, or harmed, I'm going to go right to the solution to repair and restore myself and not waste time on trying to figure out who done did me wrong and how I'm going to get revenge and how I'm going to get back at them. I'm so grateful. That was the thought that I had. I'm so grateful that I don't even care who threw the rock. I'm grateful that it didn't knock sense out of me and that here I am, able to walk past that place with a different perspective. How many of us are ready to walk with a different perspective? I hope that that's how you move through this week, with the energy of assurance that you have absorbed some great wisdom. Think about it. And as you think about those things that you've come through, pay attention to the things that you are going through now. What's going on for you mentally? What's going on for you emotionally? What's going on physically? Can you see a connection in the disconnect? Oh, well, I'm not sleeping, so therefore I'm not thinking clearly. I'm talking to people that I know I shouldn't be talking to, or I'm saying things to myself that I know I shouldn't be saying. Perhaps it's because I'm not taking care of my body in the way that I should. I told myself today, okay, Yolanda, you may be, you know, on the internet at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. That doesn't mean that you can't still go for your walk, because you recognize that that is part of your internal resource that's going to support you in being the version of you that you desire to be. Y'all, I'm a lady of a certain age and I'm used to, you know, pulling hairs out of my chin, but can I tell y'all, I had a gray hair in my chin and that thing almost took me out. When I tell you, I wanted to crawl under the table and just ball up and cry. It's just different. Again, I'm used to plucking hairs, but when that gray hair popped out, I said, "Oh, that's different. That is different." And so for those of us who, are experiencing some things going on with our body where it feels like, and I said to myself and to others, it feels like my body is fighting against me. And I don't want to fight with my body. I gotta work with this body, but the only way that I can do that is by giving it what it needs and not looking for instant gratification externally. I gotta go in here and I gotta go in here and get some lessons that I've already been through. I've read through A Course in Miracles, and every time I revisit it, I see something different. And so this lesson, let me remember, I am one with God. God's not here and I'm here. I'm one with internally. Let God work on me from the inside out, not the other way around. And so I hope that this week that you stay out of the energy of lack as much as possible. And the way that we do that is by reminding ourselves that if there is a challenge in my life, let me come out of it. Let me not think I got to do all of these other things before the solution presents itself. Let me remind myself I am the solution. I am the solution to this thing. It is within me. It's within me. Because this is what I also know. We can look externally for resources, but then we are dependent upon whether the resource is available, whether it says yes, whether it says no, whether it says maybe. That external resource may want you to jump through some hoops that you're not willing to jump through. But let me tell you, this what's going on internally, you are in control of that. Your mental and emotional energy, you are in control of that. You have to make choices about what you engage with and what you won't. And so this week, I hope that you carry a notebook, your journal, something with you so that when you notice something, when you identify something, you write it down. Oh, I got a headache. Let me write that down. And what was going on when my head started to hurt? Did Janet from HR call me 10 minutes ago and now I got a headache? Did I, say something unkind to myself and now I got a headache? Pay attention to how your body responds to the things that you say to yourself. All of those things are important. All of those things are important. And maybe you write down a reminder that I shall remove myself from the energy of lack in my conversations, in my thoughts, in my feelings, and in my behavior. Yesterday, I also told myself I needed some retail therapy. And then later on, I was telling Beloved, I spent money that I spent way too much money yesterday. And thank God for him because he said, okay, well, you've admitted it. They're not gonna come lock you up. You'll do better. You're mindful of it. Not once did he say, well, how much money did you spend? And what did you spend it on? And you shouldn't have done that. And I'm grateful for that level of support to where we both didn't get caught up in the energy of lack of, oh gosh, you've spent this money and it's horrible. He, kept it steady. Thank you, my love, for keeping me steady, for keeping me out of that energy because it's so easy to do so. And so, as much as possible this week, when you feel yourself tiptoeing towards that energy of lack, pull yourself out. Identify it, admit it, confess it, acknowledge it, and then think to yourself, how can I transform this into a greater possibility? How can I see this as if I'm having a conversation with God Almighty in this moment? Because I know that the conversations that I have with God, they're not going to come from an energy of lack. It's going to sound different. Trust and believe in ways that perhaps you haven't before, that everything that you need, you already have within you. Consistently tell yourself, if something such as this, A Course in Miracles, is of interest to you, just know that you can't read and get into A Course in Miracles if you are not willing to open your mind to possibilities that you may not have been open to before, or it will frustrate you. As a matter of fact, some of the first couple of lessons in A Course in Miracles says exactly that. I mean, it literally breaks it down to: a pen is not a pen, a chair is not a chair. You gotta relearn everything you thought you knew. I'm trying to go to the very first lesson, because if I remember, the workbook part of it will take you through how you open up your mind to the possibility of things not being what you think they are. Lesson one: nothing I see in this room means anything. That's the first lesson in A Course in Miracles. Nothing that you see means anything. And then it takes off from there. And so I'm hopeful that for all of us, as we continue on this journey of restoring, repairing, reconnecting our power, we recognize that you are your greatest resource. You are the solution to any challenge in your life. It is within your capacity. It is within your capacity, no matter how large that human experience seems to be. You have the ability to transcend it because you've already done it several times over. You may not be aware of the circumstances of how you got through it, of when you got through it, but you did. You did. Some of the things that we think were created to kill us have not done that job. Take the credit for that and recognize you have it within you. And perhaps that is something that starts to develop within you as you write these things down, that I am my greatest resource. I am my greatest resource. And when I start to align my thinking, my feeling with my behavior, then those external resources don't seem elusive. You're not going to tell me no when everything in here is telling me yes. I saw a video of, what's his name? Tyler the Creator. And I guess it was at one of his shows where he was encouraging everyone in the audience, stop listening to the external voices that are telling you that you can't do this, this ain't going to happen, blah, 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 blah. You got to listen and hear and encourage yourself and inspire yourself and keep going, keep being motivated. It is not easy, but it is necessary. If anything that we talked about today seems to be too heavy, too crazy, too beyond the concept of life that you, as you see it, email me. I had to shut down my calendar for the past 2 weeks because I was not feeling well. And if I am not feeling well, the very last thing that I'm going to do is engage in any kind of spiritual life coaching. That would not be responsible or ethical for me to do. And so I'm thankful for those of you, you know who you are, that I have to reach out to and connect with. Um, I'm back and I'm feeling so, so much better. Now, next Sunday, there won't be any meditation because Mama and Papa are going on vacation. And so I won't be anywhere near my laptop next Sunday. So we may have to reschedule for a Wednesday because I'll be back by next Wednesday. So next week, which is August the 11th, I will be away. I'll be on vacation. But I'm going to be checking in with everyone to see how we're doing, see how we're feeling. If there are any comments or concerns, you can leave them on YouTube As I have stated before, I am intending to increase my capacity here on YouTube, which means more subscribers. So please share if you are so led to doing so. I also will be increasing my presence in other places and spaces. And I'm grateful for the ability to do so. I love y'all. I love us. I love what we are creating. And I'm grateful for recognizing that mind body connection that is necessary for us to complete our work. I have work to do, you have work to do. We were created with a purpose, on purpose, and being a responsible spiritual being means identifying when there is a disconnect, acknowledging it, addressing it, and then recognizing that we have the capacity to do so. We are powerful beyond measure, and I'm grateful. Um, how do y'all feel about this 6 o'clock time? Does this work for you? Let me know. Let me know. We'll see what happens. Do we need to change from Sundays at 1:30? I don't know. We'll see. Let me know how you feel. Let me know your thoughts. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your inspiration. And I will see you sometime next week, but not on Sunday. Mama's going away. I love y'all. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.